diameter 4 pi r squared. 4 pi r squared. If we took 4 circles that have the same radius as a sphere, that's how many it would take to cover it. So it takes 4 circles of the same diameter to cover a sphere. The one that seems like it's really odd is the volume, which is 4/3 pi r cubed. 4/3 pi r cubed. So again, 4-minute video. Again, the guy is pretty dry. Not need to know that. Just some brains, they work better once they know the why, then they can actually use it knowing it comes from somewhere. Example number 1, like most example number 1s, is just a straight up normal kind of sphere question. Diameter of a baseball is 3 inches. Determine the surface area and the volume. Trick with this one is we don't need the diameter, but what information is hidden within the diameter? Radius, so really that's telling us that a radius is 1.5 inches. Surface area is 4 pi r squared, so I'm just going to sub in the 1.5. And then it's a straight up calculator question. Again, join the graphing calculator is exactly what you see. So 4 pi open bracket, 1.5 close bracket, then your squared button. Sorry, a little bit louder. If we go to 1 decimal place. Confirm 28.2. Some units. Inches squared, because it's an area. Volume, same deal, 4/3 pi, subbing in the 1.5 and then putting the cubed. To get an exponent bigger than 2 on your calculator, you have to find the key that looks like this. His nickname is the hat key, but that's not really his real name. The real official scientific name, it's called a caret, like a carrot that you eat, like Bugs Bunny. So caret, hat, same thing. Anyone find it and can describe where it is? Same button as pi? And you just press it, and then it put in the 3. So you're going to type 4 divided by 3, then pi, open the bracket, 1.5, close the bracket, caret 3. So you can do any exponent bigger than 2. You can do exponent 5, 6, 27, whatever, using the caret key. 14.1. Confirm units. Inches cubed. Oh, isn't this better than surface area of a pyramid? Okay, example 2, let's step it up a little bit. Read to read. You may have only caught that it's a ball. Who cares about anything else with read to read? You're just putting the context in your head. First sentence, what are the keywords? Surface area. 20. I would also do one more word. Ball. Lacrosse ball, great. Doesn't really matter in the grand scheme. That's just telling you the shape, so it's going to be a sphere. Second sentence. Diameter. Nearest tenth of an inch. So this is going to be a working backwards one. So you might want to make a note by the example. It's working backwards. So again, when you see one in the homework now, you're going to have one to compare to. This time we're given the surface area, so I'm going to put that on the left. I can't sub in radius, so I'm just going to leave it as r. Need to get r by itself. Again, for some brains, sometimes it helps if you highlight the variable because it tells you everything then you need to strip away from it. If that doesn't help you, then don't bother. How do you get rid of a multiplication by 4 and by pi? We're going to do it all in one step this time. What's the opposite of timesing by 4 and pi? Dividing by 4 and pi. And remember we talked yesterday, you may have to bracket the bottom, just depending on your calculator. Don't round this off, because we don't want to round to the very, very end, because then our answer will be out. Offer. That's rounded or not rounded?
Not rounded.
So that's even? 7, or is there more after that?
Well, there is more, but it's
Just give me a couple more.
0, 7, 9.
Remember the dot, dot, dot is if you're too lazy to write it all out. Can we confirm 15.707, blah, blah, blah? Okay. How do we get rid of a squared? We've done this one a couple of times now. What's the opposite of squaring something? Square rooting. And remember, if you've got your graphing calculator, you can just recall the answer. So you'd go second function square root, second function answer, which is at the bottom. Offer for the radius. Is that rounded, or I want a bunch of decimal places? Okay, give me everything that's there.
Well, it's 3.96.
More. Okay. Why aren't I rounding here? Well, I've said it probably 100 times now. When do we round? The end of the question. And are we done the question yet? No. So we just keep this on our calculator. We don't round. We don't worry about it. Dot, dot, dot shows me that answer continues. How do we go from the radius to the diameter? So if we have halfway, how do we go the full way across? Times by 2. And again, if you've got your graphing, you just go times 2. It'll take the previous answer times by 2. Now we're going to round because we're at the end. How many decimal places? How many decimal places? 1. How do we know it's 1? Question's a tenth of an inch, so give me the final answer to the nearest tenth of an inch. $7.9. Confirm. Some units. Ooh, we want to change this to 8.0. Confirm, because you all just confirmed 7.9. Okay, and the units? Inches. Not squared, not cubed, just inches. Okay, so there's a working backwards one. Example 3, read to read. So you probably got, we're talking about the sun. Maybe you picked up we want the volume. Okay, now we read to understand. Sphere, do I care it's the sun? Jupiter, Saturn, whatever, don't care. I care the diameter and I care its measurement. And in the second sentence? Volume. There's someone in front, behind, or beside you. I'll give you about 2 minutes to do this one together. If you feel formula. Oh, that made me really happy. It was almost in stereo. Oh. It was almost in stereo. That made me really, really happy. What are we going to substitute in? Which is?
435,000.
What did the calculator spit out?
3.44 miles. 44.
Okay, so let's pause. What's our rounding unless the question says otherwise? To the nearest 10. So how many decimal places is that? Does it make sense that if the diameter is that huge, the volume is going to be 3.4 miles? So you need to look a little bit further down in your decimal on your calculator, and what do you see?
Mine says times 10 to the power 17.
So some will say times 10 to the power 17. Everybody else might have a little e somewhere in there and then a 17. That's scientific notation, which I don't know if you've done in science or not. But what does that mean? Yeah, so with 17 zeros after it, does that sound like a better number when the diameter is so huge? So you may have times 7, you might have a little e, just depending on which version of the calculator you have. If you have an e, that's what it means, times 10 to the 17. Huge. Units. They estimated it. Now do you know what the little e or the times 7 means? Okay, let's talk about a hemisphere. Lost my notes. A solid hemisphere has a radius of 8 centimeters. Find the surface area and volume. There's a picture of a hemisphere. Now, actually, first I'm going to go to if there's no bottom. So this is just like a bowl that's been turned over. So if there's no bottom to the hemisphere, then it's just half of the surface area of a sphere. So what's half of 4 pi r squared? 2 pi r squared. Okay, so that just assumes there's no bottom. You just flipped over the bowl. It's half of a regular sphere. If it does have the bottom, so I'm just going to shade to show that. So this is like a bowl with a lid that you flipped over. Then the surface area becomes, well, it's the regular hemisphere plus the area of one circle. What's the area of a circle? Pi r squared. So if it's the regular hemisphere, which is 2 pi r squared, plus one circle, which is pi r squared, what does that equal? 3 pi r squared. So the three formulas really are 2 pi r squared, 3 pi r squared, 4 pi r squared. 2 pi r squared is half a hemisphere, so a bowl. 3 pi r squared is a bowl with a lid, and 4 pi r squared is the whole sphere. Volume is 2/3 pi r cubed. Okay, so it's half of the volume of the regular sphere. Read the questions carefully because sometimes it's implied whether there's the bottom or not. And obviously for surface area, that's going to change the formula. What is the key word in question 4 that tells you which formula we're going to use? Solid. Solid implies that it is solid, it is filled. So do we use with the bottom or without the bottom? With the bottom. So because they're a bottom, we're going to use 3 pi r squared. Radius is 8, so this is a straight up substitute in, nothing to, squared. Nothing to think about, throw it into your calculator. I don't think you want to miss this, but it's up to you. Sorry, 603 point. How many decimal places? The question doesn't say otherwise. So 306 or 603 point. Unit. Squared. Confirm 603.2. Okay. Volume is just half of a regular sphere. Straight up substitution. $1,072.3. Confirm units. Questions so far in the sphere or the hemisphere? One more to go. Read to read. Don't overthink it. Don't stress out. Surface area, I agree. Curved surface.
630 inches squared.
Still one more word in that sentence I would like. Hemisphere. What does curved surface mean? Just the curved part. So what is that implying? No bottom. So you might want to put in brackets, curved surface means no bottom. And then the second one, I'm going to grab length, diameter, nearest inch. This is another example of working backwards. Formula for the curved surface of a hemisphere. 2 pi r squared. This time we have the surface area, so I'm going to put it on the left, leaving everything on the right. This is really similar to example number 2, so you might just want to glance up and see what we did for example 2. It's almost the same. So how do I get rid of a 2 and a pi when I'm multiplying it on the right? Divide. Remember, you might need to put those brackets on your calc. Are we going to round now? When do we round? The very end of the question. So if we're not done yet, we don't round. We keep all those decimals. We just put dot, dot, dot.
Or
100.26 blah, blah, blah. Okay, another offer? 6 blah, blah, blah. That sounds confirmed? Okay. How,
Both, hang on, if I use the brackets, then I'll.
and you have to have the brackets, because what you're doing without the brackets is you're taking 630 divided by 2 and then timesing all that by pi.
Okay, so with the brackets, I got 100.26.
So with the brackets we're getting this, so we need to figure out which we're confirming then. We're confirming the 100.26. Okay, so again, if you needed those brackets, you might want to highlight them in the question, so you remember. Sorry? But we need the brackets. So this is incorrect, because then what you're doing again is you're dividing by 2 and you're timesing the whole thing by pi. We're good with that? Okay, how do we get rid of a squared? What's the opposite of squaring something? Are we rounding now? No, not done yet. I'm guessing it's going to be 10 point something. Blah, 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 blah. Confirmation? Diameter? 0.0 if we round to 1 decimal place. Remember, the 0.0 tells me that you rounded. If you put 20, it looks like it was an exact answer. Units. Inches squared, inches cubed, or just inches? Why just inches? It's just a single measurement, a single unit. Spheres and hemispheres. I'm okay. Maybe I need some practice. Good. Apparently that's not the right page of the book. I don't know where I